Hello, friends. So, we are coming up with another important topic, extremely important for UPSC main sociology optional, Durkheim theory of suicide. And Durkheim's most prominent theory, perhaps the most prominent theory of functionalist school, the theory of society, is ever relevant and can be utilized at many places. It can be utilized in the questions related to work and economic life. It can be utilized in questions related to education. It can be utilized in questions related to social media, technology, and its fallout. Everywhere this can be. Farmer society, there it has a wide application. And straightforward also, UPSC has asked numerous times in 10 marks, in 20 marks, this question. So we will try to understand it slowly and properly and completely. And then we will see the examples and the relevance part. So, first of all, what is the theory all about? Now, in his work, Suicide, a Study in Sociology, Durkheim explained this particular theory, which became extremely important. Central to Durkheim theory was challenging the notion of suicide. It was considered to be a very personal event. It was considered to be a very psychological event. The reasons behind it was merely psychological and was not related to social structure at large. Thus, he was critical of those theories, and as a criticism to those theories, he gave a theory which gave the reason that how society impact an individual to commit suicide. In fact, he gave very less room for the individual reasons. He made a theory in which the social fact is deciding the decision of suicide. According to Durkheim, suicide is not an individual act, nor a personal action, as suggested by the earlier thinkers. It is caused by some power which is over and above the individual or super individual, because social fact was considered by Durkheim as something which is acting over and above individual. Social fact is something which outlives an individual, like religion, marriage, the education institutions. Their lifespan is more than an individual, and he was of the belief that they are acting over and above an individual. So this was his theory. He was trying to connect everything with social structure instead of making it individual. Now he viewed all classes of deaths resulting directly or indirectly from the positive or negative acts of the victim itself, who knows the result they produce. So he gave a theory of a definition of suicide, which you can mention because it was one of the first definition which was provided by any thinker, which you can quote if you can remember it, or you can loosely just retain and write in your own words. He concludes that suicide is the result of social disorganization, social disharmony, lack of societal cohesion, lack of value integration in the society, which results in lack of social solidarity and leads to a range of economic actions. Suicide is one among them. This is perhaps you wanted to say in brief. Now, what was his methodology during his conduction of the experimentation process in which he used multivariate analysis? Just recall the lecture of variables, and I had discussed about the Durkheim theory of society, in which I had told you that how different factors was analyzed, different variables were analyzed by Durkheim to give the theory of society. Now, he emphasized on data collection, and the data he collected was primarily from police records from various regions of Europe. And this is one of the criticism also of Durkheim, because police records may not contain the suicide which were unreported. And secondly, he reviewed the existing literature which were there available on suicide. And then he rejected the explanation, which was the first explanation or the theory was theory of imitation, which was prevalent at that time, that people imitate suicide. Okay, so he said that if this was the case, then a country which has high rate of suicide, the bordering country should also have more. But this is not the case. He rejected it. Stress and modernity, many said that this is the sole reason. Then he told, no, this is not the sole reason. There are many other reasons which he provided. And he proved that suicide cannot be explained through psychological, geographical, climatic, hereditary factors. Neither the climate, nor the geography, nor the psychological condition or hereditary factors affect the committing of suicide. He explained sociological causes of suicide by correlating suicidal rates with various social factors, various variables. And then he used a multivariate analysis and then he came up with the theory. So he considered various variables like marital status, if someone is married or not married, who is committing more suicide, locality, religious orientation, Catholic, Protestant, or any other religion, male or female. He used various variables. Then he came up with his types of suicide. He gave mainly four types of suicide. So the first type of suicide was egoistic suicide. According to Durkheim, when a human becomes socially isolated or feels that he has no place in the society, he destroys himself. Okay, this is the suicide of self-centered person who lacks altruistic feelings and usually cut off from mainstream of the society. Now, I will try to explain this with example. Now, UPSC aspirants, you must have heard the heart-raging and devastating stories of UPSC aspirants committing suicide or suicides in quota. Why this happens? They are secluded from the society. They are just attached to a secluded region where they are just studying. Their happiness is measured because of just one thing, that is if they have cleared the examination or not. Okay, if they have not cleared, they feel that they have no place in the society and they destroy themselves because they're not connected with society. They're isolated. They are not connected with their hobbies. They are not connected with their parents, because most of them are not living with parents or the friends. So they are isolated. And such people commit suicide because of lack of altruistic feeling or cut off from mainstream of society, and that is known as egoistic society. The second one is altruistic suicide. Now, this type of suicide occurs when individual and the group are too close and too intimate. So this kind of suicide results from over integration of the individual into social proof. For example, sati. And sati is appropriate for this type of suicide because in the past, the societies were very close knitted, very close society, having high social solidarity, high level of integration. And then this was part of it because of integration, high level of integration, and social proofs, social customs were having a huge role in individual. And the types of custom like sati were prevalent because of it. Because of high integration, this type of suicide was happening. Or there is an example of Dennis warriors. So this is also an example of altruistic suicide. The other examples can be the suicide in any society in armed forces or Chipko movement, any kind of movement, any kind of thing. Maybe farmer protest if there is a suicide, or any suicide which is happening for a larger cause. Any embracing death because of benefit of others can be also included in this. Okay. The third type of suicide is anomic. So this type of suicide is due to certain breakdown of social equilibrium, such as suicide after global slowdown, 2008 subprime crisis, suicide during COVID-19 pandemic. Lots of businessmen committed suicide during that period, or suicide in the recent slowdown in United States of America or world over. or winning. If you have watched that Malamal Weekly movie, the person dies suddenly because he won a huge amount of money through lottery. So thus these kinds of sudden events, sudden breaking down of equilibrium, such kinds of events results into anomic suicide. So anomic suicide takes place in a situation which has cropped up suddenly, sudden event. It can be it can be an issue of farmer distress. This is a sudden event. There is a failure of monsoon, or there is a due to vagaries of monsoon, there is crop loss, and farmers are suddenly not able to pay their loans, and now they are left with only one thing, that is to commit suicide because they are feeling helpless because of a sudden event. It can be victims of very heinous crimes like rape or acid attack or any such kinds of heinous, monstrous crimes affected victims. And the last type of society is fatalistic society. So this type of society is due to over-regulation in society. If you are regulating some individual overly, under the over-regulation of a society, when a servant or slave commits a suicide, or a person who has no autonomy as such, okay, or a person who has not been allowed to live properly. In the previous time, I will give you example of untouchables. So they were not allowed to participate in social life. They were overly regulated. You have to live here, you have to drink this water, you have to work here, you have to not walk on streets. And if the persons used to commit suicide because of that over regulation, it was a prime example of fatalistic suicide. Blacks in America can be also quoted for it. Police service officers, because of over regulation, no work life balance, absolutely no autonomy, and working in a tiring conditions, and due to overstress, a lots of IPS officers, senior IPS officers in last 5 years of level of ADG and uh, IG DIG level have committed suicide of multiple cadres in the recent 4 5 years. It is because of the over regulation and having lack of autonomy and extreme work pressure. It can be the armed personnel or constables in police force, CRPFs, etc. They are overly regulated. They do not have autonomy. This is a prime example of fatalistic society. There can be the conclusion which we can draw from Durkheim research is that males have greater suicidal tendency as compared to females. He gave this conclusion while he did the research through multivariate analysis. Second, the rate of suicide is found more among the bachelors, as marriage protects individual against suicide by integrating individuals into a stable social relations, a kind of social solidarity, or a kind of responsibility is there. Third thing he said, that underdeveloped countries have less rate of suicide than developed countries. Now, let's give you an example that Bihar has lowest level of suicide rate in the country, and it's underdeveloped but closely knitted a society having a rural and a feudal background with a family exercising a lot of control. And that is why the choices are also very feudal in nature, like the choice of employment. They are going more for conventional and conservative nature of employment, like government services. The intercaste marriage is extremely low. The prevalence of dowry is there. So they are closely knighted, and thus it has certain benefits as well, and that is having less rate of suicide. It is perhaps the lowest. The religious affiliation, so Protestants commit more suicide than Catholics. The example is like Protestants do not believe in rituals, and coming together and having rituals again have social solidarity. When you celebrate Ganesh Utsav, when you celebrate Diwali, when you celebrate Holi, when you celebrate Durga Puja, when you celebrate Onam, Pongal, together, you come together, you share emotions, you celebrate. There is a collectivity, there is a social solidarity. You're not feeling meaninglessness, you're not feeling lack of integration, and that has positive things. Catholics have lots of rituals. Protestants are more into working and working. If they work more, they feel that they are close to God. And thus, there is more suicide in Protestants compared to Catholic. There are criticism of Durkheim theory as well. The first is the type of data, because there can be underreporting of crimes. He collected all the data from police stations. David Friedman accused Durkheim of committing ecological fallacy as he tried to analyze an apparent personal phenomena. So he was trying to create a fallacy in which he gave no role to individual. That was the criticism by Friedman. And data quality is the biggest criticism. Undermine psychological factors for suicide. You can talk about people committing suicide for very, very personal reasons as well. So you can quote all those things as well in criticism. And this perhaps will be enough to answer any question. You can utilize the examples which I gave at many places, and your answer, even in work and economic life, like people working in multinational companies, people working in corporate sectors, now they are not having enough freedom. They are working 12 hours, 10 hours, 13 hours in corporates, and they are uh, they are having no autonomy, so they also feel overregulated, and and there is a increasing suicide among them. That's also one of the example which you can quote in work and economic life as a fallout, and quote Durkheim's theory. So these are the probable areas, or in the world of digital technology. So people are feeling normlessness. Now there is a normlessness because the internet has no rules, and the relationship which the bond they make in internet also have no rules. They feel lack of morality, lack of social cohesion, and that the relationship that they make through social media if breaks at a very fast pace, and that affects. And there are range of activities coming from becoming aloof, depression to suicide. There can be a range of fallout, and you can put this there as well. So these are some of the applications which you can quote, and you can get more marks. I hope this was helpful for you. Take care. Best wishes.